Hopefully this will be a really quick video. See, you've looked at the world of work and why the Nazis wanted to change it, how they changed it, and what that meant for the average German worker. That's all fine and dandy, but there is one key event that changes the world of work again, which is when the Nazis go to war. See, when the Nazis went to war in 1939, that caused a number of changes for workers continually, and I need to make sure you understand this. When their country is at war, that means there are massive impacts on who is available to work, on what the government will be spending on, and what will be created inside factories. And for the average worker in Germany, that meant a lot of changes, particularly in three major areas. The first one I'm going to tell you about is rationing. See, wartime is really tough because, especially in a world war, but it's really tough because it means your country is largely isolated. What countries used to send to you probably is not going to happen now that you're at war with them, or at war with everyone around you. And in Germany's case, Germany couldn't access as many things as it was before. They were not fully self-sufficient. So German food had to be rationed. The same amount of food had to be spread out thinly amongst groups of people. Some of the records here I've got say that people were limited to 1 egg per week. I've got things like soap and toilet paper in super short supply. You might imagine linking this back to lockdown in some way. But generally, people were now going through hardships again. The Nazis had made their lives better from work, but now the Nazis' actions were taking away the lives that they built up through the 1930s. Another way that their lives have been changed was via labour shortages. See, I mean, going to war essentially means that you are asking people to go and fight. They are being taken out of their job and made to go and become a soldier. This is called conscription, and the Nazis used this, which meant men from factories were leaving those factories to go and fight and possibly die, to be replaced by more men and teenagers to go out and fight. A continual loss of people to the edge or the front where people are fighting. And what this meant is that everything in Germany suddenly needed to support those soldiers. All factories were working on a policy called total war. What it meant is that every single factory, shop, business had to in some way support the war effort, which meant every single person was working to support, including women. Women were called up to fill up the factory spaces that were not being worked in at the moment. And as well as that, and this is the more harrowing point, is that any country that was captured by Germany would kidnap and take the workers from those countries to work in German factories as slave labour, so that Germany could support its war effort on so many different fronts. And then lastly, German people were affected by bombing. The introduction of war meant the introduction of enemies, and countries like Britain actively attempting to damage German industry. If you think about how war works, if you attack the soldier at the front that's got all the support and the weapons and the uniforms and the tanks behind them, that's quite a hard battle. If you go behind their back and attack those things, you attack their tanks, you attack their food supply, you attack their oil supply, that soldier at the front will be weaker and you are more likely to win. Britain and countries like them went and bombed German cities in an attempt to damage the German economy so that the war could be won easier. This meant that German workers' lives were significantly affected. Houses destroyed, water damaged, general streets and businesses destroyed, lives lost. All these things together, bombing, rationing, work shortages, essentially meant that all of the success that the Nazis had brought to German workers was reversed. Now, German workers had the Nazis actively taking away the nice things in their life and replacing them with basically being worked like a robot, low amounts of food, destroyed and killed family members. And after 1941, 1942, when Germany attempted to invade the USSR, people started to lose faith in the Nazis. And it's a really good example to say that the Nazis' policies on work did not consistently last. The workers might have loved the Nazis, but after the war, there are some really significant things that reduce the workers' love for the Nazis. So I've got some questions for you. They'll be underneath to make sure you know this section. Firstly, 1. Why does the war change the world of workers? What about a war makes the world different? How does rationing affect the German people, for question 2? How did labour shortages and refugees affect the German people as well? And lastly, how did bombing affect the German people? If you know the answers to those questions, you've effectively revised this topic. Good luck. I'll see you later.